Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Above the Rim Rundown, where we run down all things NBA. I am one of your hosts, Memo, and right beside me, I've got Hoops. How you doing?
Man, overall, I've been doing good, pretty much just going through the regular routine in my life and with work and other life shenanigans, shall we say. So it's been pretty much the norm, I'd say. What about you, man? How have you been?
Uh, Basically the same. Same old. Just working. I'm been going to the gym, so now I'm like very sore at the moment. But I'm good. Kind of a weird day for me. Because of my weird day, we've had to push off the recording quite a bit now. I don't want to talk about it, but yeah, we're here. We got a lot to talk about today. So yeah, we got to talk about the standings. We're gonna talk about the NBA All Star reserves as they were released earlier this week. We got a little mini game. Ooh. W list, L list, news, a lot to talk about. So let's just jump into it. We're gonna go over the standings. Hoops will go over the West Coast, the best coast, while I will cover the East Coast. Hoops, would you like to go over them right now?
Yes, sir. So, starting with the Western Conference. At the very bottom, we got the Jazz at 10 and 36. At number 14, we got the Pelicans at 12 and 37. At number 13, we got the Trailblazers at 19 and 29. At number 12, we got the Spurs at 21 and 24. At number 11, we got the Warriors at 24 and 24. At number 10, we got the Kings at 24 and 23. Number 9, we got the Mavs at 26 and 23. At number 8, we got the Suns at 25 and 22. At number 7, we got the Timberwolves at 27 and 21. At number 6, we got the Clippers at 28 and 20. At number 5, we got the Lakers at 27 and 19. At number 4, we got the Nuggets at 29 and 19. Number 3, we got the Grizzlies at 32 and 16. At number 2, we got the Rockets at 32 and 15. And sitting atop of the Western Conference, we got the Oklahoma City Thunder at 37 and 9. So those are the Western Conference standings.
Now for the Eastern Conference, at number 15, we got the Wizards with a horrible 6 and 41 record. The Hornets at 14 with a 12 and 13 record. Nets at 13 with a 15 and 33 record. Raptors at 12 with a 15 and 33 record. 76ers at 11 with a 19 and 28 record. Bulls at 10 with a 21 and 28 record. Hawks at 9 with a 22-26 record. Magic at 8 with a 24-25 record. Heat at 7 with a 23 and 23 record. Pistons at 6 with a 24 and 24 record. Pacers at 5 with a 26 and 20 record. Bucks at 4 with a 26 and 20 record. Knicks at 3 with a 32-16 record. Celtics at 2 with a 34-15 record. And at the top, it's the Cavs, as always, with a 39 and 9 record. So those are the standings. Now let's jump into the NBA All-Star Reserve talk because they were revealed earlier this week. And, there's been some controversy, as always, with the All-Star game. But I feel like this one, more than usual, I have, more mixed feelings about. I understand why these are the teams. I just don't like the teams. But, yeah, we'll go through both conferences. Starting with the Western Conference. Hoops, would you like to read off the All-Stars that are going to be in the reserves this year?
Yes, sir. So in the Western Conference, we got for the reserves Anthony Edwards, Anthony Davis, James Harden, Jaren Jackson Jr., Alperen Şengün, Jalen Williams, and Victor Wembanyama. So, first thought when I saw this lineup was um none of these I guess none of these people to me were extremely shocking. There were definitely some guys that I did not necessarily think were actually going to get selected. And I think it was more so due to the fact that I thought some other guys were more deserving. Like, for example, the two guys that really stood out to me were James Harden and Jaren Jackson Jr. Um, Me personally, starting with James Harden, for example, he is having a good season. But me personally, if they were to pick a Clipper, I think it should have been Norman Powell. And that's simply due to the fact that Norman Powell was having a breakout season, and I think he deserves the recognition. Nonetheless, I'm not shocked that the Clippers got a All-Star because they are having a shockingly good season, as mentioned. And then as far as Jaren Jackson Jr. goes, he's also having a pretty good season, and one could argue he's maybe even having a better season than Ja this year. But that being said, if another big man were to be here, I think Sabonis deserved the nod over Jaren Jackson Jr. And I also think that if we're listing other names, John Morant and De'Aaron Fox are more worthy, but I feel like Ja probably is because of the number of games he missed, and Fox is unfortunately probably because the Kings just do not have a great record, and probably the same for Sabonis. The Kings record I think really took a major factor in those guys getting snubbed most likely. Overall, I would say nothing too crazy shocking in terms of like the players that were selected, but more so like disappointed that other guys were not selected. That's pretty much my thoughts when I initially saw the Western Conference reserves. What were your thoughts, Memo?
Very similar, to be honest. Like, um, I think it's very shocking that James Harden made it. Like, you did kind of shout him out last week, saying that he was one of your snubs. I had like zero confidence that he would actually make it, but he did. And as you said, if I were to choose a Clipper, I would have chose Norman Powell over him, just because he's had a breakout season. This is probably the one season where he could make the All Star team, even though I didn't have him on my lineup. Um, I would have took Norman Powell over James Harden. Like, James Harden has been an All Star. He has been an MVP, All NBA player. Norman Powell has not done any of that. Like, let's just give him the ball. Let's just let him play over James Harden. But yeah, I would have took Norman Powell over him. I would have took De'Aaron Fox over James Harden and John Morant. But I understand the arguments on why they didn't make it. John Morant being injured. De'Aaron Fox isn't playing for the best of teams, which is, as you mentioned, the biggest reason why he didn't make it. And Sabonis, who a lot of people want to see over Alperen Sengun. And I understand why. Like, Sabonis is amazing. I think he's better than Sengun. I would argue better than Jaren Jackson Jr., but I'm also kind of a Jaren Jackson Jr. hater, so maybe take that opinion with a grain of salt. But clearly, the reason why Sabonis didn't make it is because he plays for our worst team, and they're probably going to get even worse with De'Aaron Fox trying to leave soon. So we'll talk about that later. But yeah, I'm not surprised about these names. I just don't want a few of them to be playing. Like, what is Jaren Jackson Jr. supposed to be doing out there? He's not really the most exciting name. Like, most people would want to see Ja over Jaren Jackson Jr. I feel like Ja is just not only the leader of the team, but just way more entertaining to watch. And we need more entertaining players to play for an All-Star game that has been tough to watch recently. But, he does deserve it because he's had such an amazing season. This is by far his best season. Definitely offensively. He's still a good defender as well. But he's playing better than the year he was an All-Star and was DPOY. So I understand why he made it, even though I am a hater. I just don't want to see him. that's as simple as that. But yeah, I would have liked to see Sabonis over him, Ja over him. I understand why people don't want to see Albert Sengun, but he is, on the team with the second best record in the West. So it makes sense for him. It makes sense for Jaren Jackson Jr. James Harden should have been Norman Powell, but He is the more legendary name, so I guess that makes sense. Anthony Davis, of course, makes sense. 10th-time All-Star now. Uh, best player, one of the best players on both ends of the floor. Anthony Edwards, one of the most exciting players, leader of the Minnesota Timberwolves. That's obvious. J-Dub is a really great player. OKC deserves a second player in the All-Star game, so I'm glad he made it. And Wemby making his first All-Star game as well as J-Dub is obvious because, of his crazy stat lines. And the Spurs have improved since last year, so I see the argument for all of them. As a guy that talks about the NBA with you every week, I understand, but the NBA fan in me just doesn't want to watch Jaren Jackson Jr. play or older James Harden play in the All-Star game. I'd rather watch John Moran or De'Aaron Fox, but I'll leave it there. Anything you want to say before we move on to the Eastern Conference?
Pretty much agreeing with almost everything you said. I feel like this year, the players that were selected just aren't necessarily the most flashy and exciting names that you think of. Like John Morant in particular is one of those high flyers that makes a game really exciting. If he would have made it, that would have been really cool. And then De'Aaron Fox, even though he's not like necessarily crazy flashy like John Morant is, he still has like crazy speed, and then that also makes his game flashy in a way. So yeah, they definitely would have preferred some guys like that over some of the guys that we picked or that were selected. But overall, the crop of players talent wise was for sure um reasonable selections. So
Yeah.
I think at that point we are good to move on to the Eastern Conference reserves.
All right, let's do that. So, in the Eastern Conference, the reserves are Jalen Brown from the Celtics, Pascal Siakam from the Pacers, Darius Garland from the Cleveland Cavaliers, Evan Mobley from the Cleveland Cavaliers, Cade Cunningham from the Detroit Pistons, Damian Lillard from the Milwaukee Bucks, and Tyler Hero from the Miami Heat. And this is very not very different. I think there's like three names that made it that I wouldn't have had on this list. Pascal Siakam, sneaky like good pick from you. Like I don't remember if he actually made it on your list or was a snub, but you did mention him, and I like totally forgot about Siakam. I didn't mention him at all, but he has had like a sneaky good season this year with the Pacers, and the Pacers are doing all right. Not as good as people might have hoped. Halliburton had a down season, but he slowly like picking the steam up a bit. But Siakam has been like the solid rock over there, so I'm honestly not mad that he got on the uh, on the lineup, even though I did have Paulo over him, but I knew Paulo was a stretch because he was out for so long that I was hoping maybe that like Yao Ming moment would carry Paulo into the All-Star game because I believe Yao Ming was injured for like almost the entire season, played like 10 games and still made the All-Star game one year. I think that happened. I might be talking out of my ass. I said this last week, but I'm pretty sure that happened. I honestly should have double checked. But yeah, even though I didn't have Siakam on the lineup, it makes sense. Like having him over Paulo makes sense because of the injury. So I'm not mad at that. I'm happy to see Darius Garland here. I would have liked to see Trae Young or LaMelo Ball instead. Uh, Even though both of those players aren't the most efficient, we all know that they both play for much worse teams, especially LaMelo, which that has to be the reason why they didn't make it this year. Because their teams suck. I think the Hornets were the 14th seed, so it's crazy to give an all-star nod to a 14th seed player. Um, but like the stats are crazy for LaMelo. Like I think he averages like 28 and 8. The efficiency isn't good. For both LaMelo and Trae Young, I think they get a lot of turnovers around or a decent amount. So I understand why they didn't make the lineup, but I would have had them over Darius Garland and definitely over Tyler Hero. Which, like, shout out to him, breakout season. His team is definitely better than the Hawks, better than the Hornets for sure. But like Tyler Hero, really over Trey Young, over LaMelo Ball. Like, again, like the person that's talking right now, the guy that talks about NBA every week, understands why Tyler Hero made it. And shout out to him. He was very happy to make the team. I saw the video earlier this week, and he seems excited for us. So shout out to him. But the NBA fan in me doesn't want to watch Tyler Hero play at the All Star game. I want to watch LaMelo. I want to watch Trey Young. I think these are more exciting names. They play, especially LaMelo Ball. But they play like they play in the All Star game like every game, which is probably the reason why the Hornets lose so much. But still, like, this is the one game where we can watch these players just show out, be goofy, do whatever. And we're not gonna have one of the most like entertaining players in the league to play in the All Star game. That seems weird to me. But what do you think? Do you think this is shocking at all? Do you think it makes sense, or uh, was this an atrocious lineup in your opinion?
I wouldn't say it was atrocious, but there were definitely some names that I did not expect. And I must start by saying, so to answer what you said earlier about Pascal Siakam, I had him as a snub. I guess I'm not too shocked that he got selected because, as you mentioned, he is having a sneaky good season. So, not mad about that one. Um, Darius Garland, I also had as a snub candidate, and I had a feeling maybe he was gonna get selected. I just didn't know if he would for sure. Um, and at the end, I'm not shocked. I mean, he's having a good season. His team is the best record in the league right now, and so it's understandable. Um, but Tyler Hero, I guess he's another one of those guys where, like, I'm not shocked that he made it due to he's having his best season of his career. And granted, his team has a decent record, like not the greatest record, but still pretty good. And so that's why he got it. But definitely was very disappointed, in particular for LaMelo Ball not getting the nod. And it's simply due to the fact that he's having such a good season, but just simply because of the fact that he is on a 14th seed, that is why he didn't get selected. And once again, I think that's one of the flaws of all-star voting. Because, like, don't get me wrong, the team success is important, but I don't think that should be like the number one drag of a player making or not making the selection. So that was definitely really disappointing. Trey Young for sure was really disappointing because obviously he's also having a really good season. Um, but his team has been very mid this year. I mean, we always mention how the Hawks are like probably the weirdest team in the league. They beat some of the best teams and they lose to some of the worst teams. Um, but yeah, that was really disappointing that Trey didn't get selected. Snub for sure. Um, Other guys that I thought were potential snubs, but maybe not as shocking. Scotty Barnes, obviously he is doing pretty good, but his team is also not very good, unfortunately. So that I was because of that reason that he didn't make it as much as I really wanted him to. And then the other guy I said as like a little bit of a snub, despite also understandable due to team success, Tyrese Maxey. Now, obviously, Tyrese Maxey, I believe we both picked him to make our All-Star teams, but or maybe not, but I think maybe I had him like an honorable mention or something. But yeah, or actually, I think I may have selected him, but I think you probably had him as honorable mention.
Yeah, you
But
had like eight
um,
guards. Not eight guards.
yeah,
I'm
that was
over
too.
exaggerating,
It was
but you had a good amount
it
of
was
guards.
too many. It was too many guards. I admit so. But yeah. I guess I'm unfortunately not too shocked he didn't make it because of the fact that the Sixers are just not very good this season. But I think that at the end of the day, if we were to look at the rosters, it's less so shocking the guys that were selected as it was more disappointing once again of certain guys that were not selected. And I think the main snubs were without a doubt LaMelo Ball and Trey Young. And I think that probably if I were to make a direct swap just based on the players itself, I probably would take out Tyler Hero and probably Garland and replace them with Melo and Trey. But I will say those guys are deserving of making it due to how good of seasons they're having. It's just that we could have had some more exciting guys. Once again, like we mentioned for the Western Conference. That's pretty much my reaction to the Eastern Conference reserves.
Yeah, makes sense. Like everything makes sense. I just don't like it, but it makes sense. Like Jaylen Brown, although a down season, he's still the second best player, for the Celtics, and he just won, Finals MVP, so he's got to be in it. Siakam, sneaky good season. Darius Garland and Evan Mobley have been playing for one of the best teams, well, the best team in the league, throughout the entire season, and they've been great. So it makes sense that they're here. Kate Cunningham has been playing for an All Star for years, but now his team is good, so he's in it. Damian Lillard is playing better than last year, and last year he not only was an All Star, but won All Star MVP. So definitely deserves it. And yeah, Tyler Hero. Although I don't want to, I'd rather have LaMelo Ball and Trey Young over him. It makes sense. He's improved a lot this year. He's scoring up in bunches. Great 3-point shooter. So makes sense he's here. Uh, I guess the last thing I'll mention before we move on to like a mini game. It is weird having LaMelo Ball, who was number one in fan voting. He is the very first person to be like number one in a voting category, and not only miss the starting lineup, but miss the entire All Star lineup in general. Like this newer voting format is new. It's not what we've been doing or the NBA's been doing throughout the history of All Star Game. But yes, very surprising how this guy was voted number one for Eastern Conference guards and didn't even make it into the All Star Game. Like that's insane. Like the fans clearly want to watch him play, and he's not gonna play. So that's crazy.
Yeah, and definitely very disappointing there. I mean, I get it. Team success is important. Like, yeah, I don't think that it should weigh that much to the point where it discredits that player's like season that they're having. So very disappointing there, especially knowing the fact that fans clearly really wanted Melo to make it, and yet he was not selected.
Yeah, but I guess we can move on from here and play a little mini game. We did this last week where we drafted the All Star starters. It did pretty well. I kind of like locked in for the editing portion. I added like subtitles and sound effects and stuff. I think it was pretty good, so I recommend it. And we're gonna do another one for this week, but instead of drafting the All Star starters, we're drafting a 5-man lineup with the All Star reserves. So, hoops, we're drafting the All Star reserves. We're making a 5-man lineup, and this time I'm going first. So, with my number one pick for this draft, give me. Ooh, this is tough. but give me Anthony Davis. I'll take Anthony Davis with my first pick. Call me a Lakers glazer.
Ooh,
I don't care, but I'll take Anthony Davis.
ooh, okay. So I will say I was a little bit shocked you didn't take someone else potentially, but I will say I'm not particularly mad about this pick because obviously Lakers fandom. Um, but for me, my number one pick, let me think. I will say you picking AD kind of made it a little bit interesting here. Um, I think you know what? I'm gonna go with the pick that I wanted to make anyway. Um, I'll go ahead and take Anthony Edwards with my number one pick.
All right, very surprising. Kind of surprising, even though I did want Anthony Edwards. I was hoping he'd slip to me. Uh, it doesn't matter because I'm going with the Twin Towers here. We all know Anthony Davis wants to play with a center. Might as well give him one of the most entertaining centers. Give me Wemby. Give me Wemby. Anthony Davis and Wemby on the court together.
Okay, Twin Towers. I guess I can't really say I'm shocked because like if he's still available, why wouldn't you take him? Um, now I gotta think who I want to take next. Hmm. Options, options, options. Um, at this point, I think for my number two pick, I will take. Hmm, probably someone from the. Honestly, I'm just gonna go ahead and okay, I'll just go ahead and take okay, I need a big man, so I'm just gonna go take Shengun, why not?
All right, good pick. Uh, there's not a lot of forwards, so I'm just gonna take one, and I'll go with J Dub. I'll take J Dub.
Okay. Um I think for my next pick, I will go ahead and take let's see. All right. I guess I'll have to probably take a forward also. And I'll go ahead and I'll take Jalen Brown.
Okay, Finals MVP. Definitely not a bad pick. Now I need my guards. Do I want to go with shooting? Do I want to go with facilitating? I might go with that direction. So give me Cade as my point guard.
Okay, that's actually not a bad pick. Um okay, for my next pick, I'm gonna go ahead and take Dame time, Damian Lillard.
Ah, I was hoping I would be able to take Dave. Okay, okay. With my last selection, I need another guard. My options are James Harden. I've got Tyler Hero or Darius Garland. Uh, we'll put Cade as shooting guard, I guess, because I'm taking Darius Garland as my point guard. He's a little smaller, so he's got to play as my point guard.
All right, not bad. And so for my final pick, I am going to go with I'll go with Evan Mobley.
Evan
So
Mobley. Okay, so read out your
I
lineup.
realized yeah, I realized that because you have two twin towers, I kind of needed a little bit more height at the end. So I decided to yeah. But I guess we can review our lineups to the viewers. now that we have completed our draft. Um, would you like to reveal yours first? I guess since you made the first pick.
Yeah, so my guards are Darius Garland and Cade Cunningham. I've got J Dub at my small forward, and I've got Anthony Davis and Wemby as my two big men. A lot of defense, especially uh, with the forward and center position. Not a lot of shooting, but I'll take it. I'll take it.
Yeah. So for my team, I got running at point Damian Lillard. Um, you could do like switchable, I guess, the 2 and the 3, Anthony Edwards, Jaylen Brown. And then for my big men, I got Evan Mobley and Alperen Şengün. So a little bit of a different construction versus Memo's team. A little bit less height, but a little bit more shooting. So I guess we'll let you guys be the judge who you think has the better lineup for this draft.
This one's tough. I really don't know who has the better lineup.
It's tricky because I will admit, I'm not gonna lie. After you ended up taking AD and Wemby, I was kind of like questioning myself. Like, shit, did I make the right move? And at the end,
You recovered nicely.
I mean,
You recovered nicely. I'll say
I think
that.
I did recover. I mean, like, honestly though, like, even though you mentioned that you don't have a lot of shooting, I wouldn't even say, at least from like the guard side, that it's like bad even. I mean,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Cade's a really good shooter. Garland's pretty good at shooting.
Garland's good.
It's mostly yeah, it's mostly just like your big men are really like down low guys. I mean, obviously Wemby and AD could shoot, but they're just not like 3-point specialists, shall we say? Which they shouldn't because they're centers.
Yeah,
Yeah, you guys be the judge there, because we're even unsure. I think they're both the flaws and the strengths.
yeah. This was definitely very interesting. I can't wait to edit that. Hopefully soon.
Definitely.
Um, all right, now let's jump into the W list. We'll kind of try to speed run through this because we got like we got several things to talk about, but it's not like a lot to talk about either. So we'll go through this and starting with the W list, we have several nice little winning streaks. So hoops, would you like to go over those?
Yeah, I'll get right to it. So, first team I have on the W list is the Timberwolves. They are currently on a 5-game win streak with wins over the Mavs, Nuggets, Hawks, Suns, and Jazz. So a few good teams and then a few all right or bad teams. And so during this streak, Ant has been killing it. He has scored no fewer than 21 points during the win streak. And 3 out of the 5 games during the win streak, he has scored 33 plus points. So Timberwolves are getting better despite a pretty inconsistent season. Next team I'll go over on the W list is the Knicks. Um, so they are currently on a 5-game win streak, and they have wins over Hawks, Nets, Kings, Grizzlies, Nuggets, and yeah, they've been playing some good ball lately. As they did start the season a little bit slow as well. They have really been turning it on, and they are moving up the ladder. I believe they are currently the 3rd seed in the Eastern Conference, only behind the Cavs and the Celtics. So good for the Knicks. Hopefully they keep on growing. Next team I have on the list is the 76ers, who are obviously having a down year, but they have been playing better lately. And prior to Friday, they were on a 4-game win streak, beating the Cavs, Bulls, Lakers, and Kings. Now, they did lose to the Nuggets on Friday by 3, which was a close, hard-fought loss. But overall, Sixers have been really impressive and playing much better lately. So I thought they were worthy of being on the W list. And the last team I have on the W list is the Toronto Raptors. They were also on a win streak that was snapped on Friday. That was being a 5-game win streak. And they beat Magic, Hawks 2 times, Pelicans, and Wizards. So a lot of not so good teams and then one team. Nonetheless, for this, I believe I heard before this win streak that the Raptors were on, they had never even won like 2 games straight. So this is a major leap going from only a 1 game win streak to a 5 game win streak. So good for the Raptors on that part. And I know Scotty, I think he was playing pretty good during that stretch, so shout out to him as well. Their streak did end, but overall, Raptors have been playing better, so definitely worthy of the W list. That being said, those are all the teams that we have listed on the W list. I think now we can mention a few players on the W list. And I believe this is where I will now let Memo take the charge on those subject matters.
Before we do that, though, I did want to say how impressive like the 76ers and Raptors are for getting those win streaks. As even though they ended, still, 76ers beating the Cavs, beating the Lakers, Kings. That's pretty good for them. With their injury riddled season, and then the Raptors as well. Like they don't win games. They probably shouldn't be winning these games. This is probably not the right move if they want to capture the flag. But a 5 game win streak for them is like winning the Super Bowl. So, shout out to those two teams and the other teams that had a or are having a win streak at the moment. But yeah, let's move on. And we're gonna talk about Vince Carter because just this week he got his jersey retired again. This has been Vince Carter's year. Making it into the Hall of Fame earlier this year. His Raptors jersey was retired, and now for the Nets, for the Brooklyn Nets, the number 15 jersey will no longer be utilized by any other player because Vince Carter's number 15 jersey has been lifted into the rafters. Very well deserved, I believe. A legend for the Nets, and not a lot of success. We know this about Vince Carter and the Nets, but still, he was one of the most exciting players to play for that organization. So shout out to Vince Carter, and I'm sure you also believe that he deserves to be having his jersey retired, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that Vince Carter is very worthy of getting his jersey retired by both the Raptors and the Nets. But what's really cool is the fact that he got both of them retired in the same season. Like, I don't remember when was the last time that happened, or if that ever did happen to any other player before, where they actually got jerseys retired by 2 different teams in the same season. That's crazy. But Vince is a legend, so very few people as deserving as him. So definitely happy for Vince. Absolutely deserved to get the jerseys retired by both franchises. Cool moments we were able to see from both ceremonies now. And so I think that I think that Vince was for sure more well known for his time with the Raptors. But then again, like he had a better relationship with the Nets franchise because obviously like Toronto hated this guy for a long time after he left. Understandable because of like the way things ended, but it is good that they were able to pick things up and they were able to have closure at the end. But Nets seems like they always had a good relationship, so a little bit of a different story between the two relate franchises, but at the end, I'm definitely glad that both franchises retired Vince's jersey and shout out to him. Really cool 2 months or so, whatever it's been since he got both jerseys retired. So yeah, it was very well deserving.
Yeah, shout out to him. They had a nice ceremony. Not as good as the Raptors one, which is funny. Funny enough, apparently the Nets were planning on retiring Vince's jersey before the Raptors, and then the Raptors heard about that, so they decided to retire his jersey before the Nets, which I thought was kind of funny. Uh, but
I
yeah,
actually didn't know that. That's funny.
yeah. You did get me thinking about players that got their jersey retired from multiple teams and how Vince was might be the only person that did it in the same season. It got me immediately thinking about Pau Gasol. His jersey's retired for Memphis, right?
Feel like it should be, but I don't remember when, if it was.
It. I feel like well, it definitely should be, but um,
Yeah,
I don't remember. It should be, and I
I
kind
also
of
don't remember.
thought his jersey would be retired in the same season as when the Lakers retired his jersey. But when you said that, that was the first person that came to mind for some reason. Um, so yeah, I don't know if his jersey's even retired for Memphis at the moment, but
I don't know.
they probably should have. I know Marcus Gasol's jersey has been retired. Uh,
Yeah,
Not sure about Pau
I think
Gasol.
I think it might not be crazy enough. Which Memphis, you'd better get on it soon, if not.
Yeah, you might be right. Uh,
Yeah. I mean, I do know like some teams tend to take longer on jersey retirements and some tend to act faster, but like, yeah.
that's interesting. I don't think they did, even though part of me thought the Grizzlies retired Pau's jersey around the same time as the Lakers, but I guess that's not the
Yeah.
case.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and say that, yeah, if they really indeed have not done it yet, they better do it soon
They will. They will.
because Powell had a good run with the Grizzlies, and I guess it's understandable that Mark's jersey was retired first
Oh yeah,
because he did have more. I think he did have more years with Powell, or than Powell did, even though Powell did play for Memphis for
maybe
a
more
good amount of
success
years.
too, even though it's not much, but
More success.
still.
I think more success for sure because the Grizzlies made the playoffs almost every year, aside from like the first few seasons Mark was there, versus like Powell. I don't remember how good the Grizzlies were. I feel like they were a little bit of a subpar team for a good amount of time. Yeah. Um, it seems like probably maybe Vince Carter might be the only player having two jerseys retired by two different franchises in the same season.
Yeah, I think you're right. But yeah, let's move on. Kind of got sidetracked there. Sorry, but let's move on to the last thing in the W list. I just wanted to shout out Isaiah Thomas because he has been one of my favorite players of all time. I'm a very short person, so seeing someone like Isaiah Thomas light it up is really cool for me to see. But yeah, just recently he started playing for the Salt Lake City Stars, the G League team. And in his debut, he scored 37 points, 12 of 27 shooting, 8 assists, 3 rebounds, 2 steals. So that was a great debut for Isaiah Thomas. I don't know if this will lead into anything. I don't know if he'll be in the NBA soon at all. I Part of me doubts it, but any success for Isaiah Thomas is cool to see. So shout out to him.
Yeah, definitely. Shout out to IT for having a nice performance, although it was in the G League, nonetheless a really good one. Hopefully NBA team will give him another chance. I mean, I still think that IT is one of those guys that could be a really good scoring boost off the bench for any team, especially like a contender that is looking for a scoring boost. But nonetheless, really happy to see IT doing good at any level. I am not shocked because I knew he still had um I knew he still had more fuel left in the tank. But yeah, hopefully he gets another NBA call up.
Yeah, I hope so. But yeah, that's it for the W list. Now let's move on to the L list, and we gotta talk about one of the most consistent losers for this past month. Jimmy Butler again got suspended. Last week we talked about his 2 game suspension for missing his team's flight. Now he's got suspended indefinitely. Apparently, during shoot around, Jimmy Butler walked away because they told him that he was no longer going to start. Haywood Highsmith was going to start over him. And I guess Jimmy Butler was like, Haywood Highsmith over me? And walked out. So now he's suspended indefinitely. And yeah, this has been a very messy divorce. This is what Jimmy Butler does, though. Like, we shouldn't be completely surprised. But yeah, Jimmy Butler wants out. Pat Riley definitely wants him out. But we're getting closer and closer to the trade deadline. It's gonna be hard to trade Jimmy with that contract of his. Still very curious on what's gonna happen with him. But yeah, what's your thoughts on another Jimmy Butler suspension? This time indefinitely.
Yeah, once again, not very shocking, but very unfortunate. That's due to the fact that, like, obviously we have seen like how good Jimmy could be when he is serious. Playoff Jimmy in particular goes pretty much demon mode and goes off. But like, yeah, unfortunately, like we've seen like what he did when he was with the Timberwolves. When he is unhappy with the situation, he is not willing to put his differences to the side. He will just be a very me first over team. And unfortunately, as wild as it was in Minnesota, that was absolutely nothing compared to what is going on in Miami. And so I do not particularly blame the Heat for suspending him indefinitely because if this guy is clearly showing no effort or will of wanting to be there, then you got to punish him one way or another. But yeah, as mentioned last week, for the Heat's sake, hopefully they can find a trade partner soon just so they get this drama beside them. Probably going to be the Suns, but we will see like the trade package, compensation, and all that. Um, yeah, this is a very unfortunate, ugly divorce between Jimmy and the Heat, but hopefully they can get it over with soon.
Yeah, it's been a very weird season for the Heat, that's for sure. But okay, let's move on to now Joel Embiid, who's been having another weird season. We all know that he's always injured and stuff. And which sucks to him. Like, I know I clown him a lot, but it does suck for Joel that his body is like falling apart and he gets clowned on. But I did want to mention this because I thought this was an insane stat. But apparently, he just surpassed earlier this week his 400th missed game of his career. This man played a total of 446 games in his career. So, like, almost 50% of his games were missed throughout his career. That's crazy. Like, almost every other game he has played, he has missed in his career. So I do feel bad for like Philly fans and Embiid fans who want to see him play because he's always out, and I do feel bad for Embiid, who is constantly getting injured and being out. But yeah, what an insane stat that I saw earlier this week. Like, he's barely played more games than sat out, just barely. It's crazy. I just wanted to throw that in there for losers of the week.
Yeah, definitely a very crazy stat line there. Obviously, we all know Embiid missed his full rookie season and I believe sophomore season also, something like that. And so missing 400 games is very close to 5 full seasons. Insane. And so,
That's crazy.
yeah, I did the calculation. 400 400 divided by 82 is 4.8780. FYI. So yeah, very, very close. Man. So I think that at the end of the day, once Embiid really he calls it quits for his career, he might end up being one of the what ifs. Like obviously he has shown he's a very good dominant big man when he is available and on the floor. But due to the number of games he missed, people can just be wondering like how much higher this guy could have been on like the all-time scoring, rebounds, blocks, maybe win rate or playoff wins, you name it. Um, yeah, definitely very unfortunate there. And haha. Obviously the Sixers played against the Nuggets on Friday, game in Philly, but still really funny. Embiid still has not played a game in Denver since 2019, which is crazy. It's already like over 5 calendar years. Yeah, ducking Jokic, man. But yeah, all jokes aside, I agree with you as much as we do clown Embiid for a lot of his mishaps, whether it's like acting like a diva at times or missing too many games like that. Definitely do feel for the guy because when he is available, he is one of easily the top players in the league. And yeah, I mean obviously we did the top 25 players a few weeks ago and I think a lot of the things are reasonable because like if Embiid is healthy, then he probably is like at least a top 10 player in the league. But when he is constantly off the floor, then it's like hard to really judge. So yeah, unfortunately, availability is the best ability, and Embiid just hasn't really been available. So hopefully he can recover soon and be back on the floor.
Yeah. Um, I feel like even though the injury part of his career is definitely gonna play into the factor of like the what if stories in the future, I feel like the biggest what if in Joel's career is what if Ben Simmons actually made that layup. You know, that was probably the one opportunity where Joel could have gone for a finals push, and Ben Simmons ruined that for the 76ers.
Yeah, I think it was that was definitely one of those years. I think it was 2021, which is the year when they lost against the Hawks on the Ben Simmons layup low, and 2019 when they lost
Oh
against the
yeah,
Raptors on the Kawhi game winner. Cause like if they beat the Raptors, I mean, I don't know, maybe they beat the Bucks, maybe they lose to the Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals. If they played against the Warriors, I mean, obviously hard to say because like maybe Clay KD doesn't get hurt, but then again, there's a chance maybe they could. It's just really hard to say because different scenarios, maybe those guys that got hurt in the finals don't end up getting hurt. But then again, like if it's a very like freak injury, maybe it's a situation like it still would have happened. It's hard to say. But like I think 2019 and 2021 were really the years that the Sixers could have won
you're
and
right.
they were blown opportunities. And so yeah, maybe Joel Embiid's best chance is unfortunately beside him. We'll see because it seems like aside from the well, I was gonna say aside from the Celtics, all the other teams are kind of like shaky-ish. But even the Celtics are looking shaky right now. They've been losing a lot of games, and hopefully it stays that way. Hopefully they don't just randomly get back on track and then do really good in the playoffs. Because I would love if they like keep struggling and then get knocked out early. But yeah, honestly, Eastern Conference is kind of open, so maybe necessarily his his title chances are not really beside him, but it's gonna be a tough climb up for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. So yeah, we can move on, and we got a few losing streaks to talk about if you want to go over them really quickly.
Yeah, definitely we'll do that. So, first team I have on the L list is the Hawks. They are currently on a 7 game losing streak. And I think that another thing that's worthy that we already talked about is the fact that Trey Young got snubbed from the All Star reserves, and he gets snubbed again because he has gotten snubbed a few times in the past. And so there's a thing where Trey has not gotten All Star selections in consecutive seasons. And unfortunately, that is still a thing. So Hawks are on the L list for various reasons. So the next team I have on the L list is the Jazz. They are currently on an 8-game losing streak, and they have the worst record in the Western Conference. So not looking good in Utah. And then last team I have on the L list is none other than the worst team in the NBA, the Washington Wizards. Currently on a league worst 16-game losing streak with a 6-41 record, I believe it was. Yeah, 6-41 record. Yeah, really bad there. And I know they are trying to capture the flag, but will they? Because as we've seen in recent NBA lotteries, worst record in the league does not guarantee the number one pick. And I think the Pistons had it the most rough, where they had the worst record and they somehow ended with number 5. Like, that is very rough, man. But hey, that's just a sign. Like, NBA is really discouraging tanking. In a way, it's good. In another way, it's unfair. But like, I'm mixed on the NBA lottery because I feel like one part of it is not fair, but another part of it is it makes things interesting. Nonetheless, Wizards have the worst record in the league. It does not guarantee that they are going to capture the flag. And if I were to make a bet, I would honestly say they're probably not going to get the number one pick despite having the worst record because that's how those ping pong balls have been bouncing recent years. But we will see. Nonetheless, it's been rough in Washington. And so those were the three main teams I have on the L list due to very embarrassing losing streaks. So, is there anything you would like to address on those teams, or should we move on to NBA news?
Not much. Just as he kind of already said, it would be crazy if the Wizards don't get that first pick after such an abysmal season. But I kind of want to see that happen. I want to see that
I,
Washington curse
I'm
to
not
happen.
gonna. I'm not gonna lie. I do not want to see Cooper Flag end up in Washington. So, I also would like to see that happen. They have the worst record and don't get a number one pick. Yeah, that's just a sign like tanking does not always work. So yeah, um, we'll see what happens in the NBA lottery draft later on, you name it. But that's ways down the road.
Hmm.
So I guess we'll talk about some present NBA news. Um, and Memo, would you like to start with our first headline?
Yes, and we'll start with the biggest story of this week, probably other than the Jimmy Butler suspension, but that's also kind of becoming old news at the same time. But yeah, De'Aaron Fox no longer wants to be with the Kings. At least that's what it seems like because there's been a lot of rumors talking about how he wants to get traded, and the Kings are, you know, looking at offers at the moment. So De'Aaron Fox wants to be out. Kings are looking for offers, and the biggest rumor right now at the moment is De'Aaron Fox wanting to go to the Spurs. At the end of the day, it's not his decision where he can go, but you know, it would be kind of cool to see De'Aaron Fox with Wemby. Um, like I feel like that would work pretty well. Another great point guard to add to that roster. I'm I heard that they're not willing to trade out Stephen Castle, but they're willing to trade probably Devin Vassell and other players on the team. Um, I think it would be a good fit. Maybe Fox isn't the best facilitator in the league, but I think he's still a good point guard. Could help out a lot offensively. We know Wemby got the defense down. Um, do you think this would work, Fox, over at San Antonio?
I think it would be a very interesting fit, not gonna lie. And I think potentially it could work. I mean, and granted, obviously the Spurs do have Chris Paul as their floor general right now. He is also an old man. And so he very well might be like a 1 year rental for San Antonio. Or 2 years if lucky. But if they get De'Aaron, they could have potentially a long-term point guard running the helm in San Antonio. And him and Wemby, I could just imagine could have like a pretty nice pairing. I mean, obviously, we all know De'Aaron and Sabonis have a pretty good pairing. Um, I think that De'Aaron and Wemby could be just as good, if not better. So I would say I think it could fit in San Antonio. But as mentioned, we just don't know what the Spurs would be giving up in the trade because, like, understandably so, I would get why maybe they wouldn't want to give up Steven Castle because they just took him with their recent lottery pick and he has shown promise. But we will see. Honestly, for De'Aaron's sake, I say free that man. Obviously, the Kings are not necessarily a successful franchise. They had been winning games more ever since Christie took over, but just this week they have been kind of back to their losing ways again. So I would say, for De'Aaron's sake, I hope his wish gets granted, and I would not mind seeing him go to San Antonio because I think he would be a very interesting and cool pairing with Wemby there.
Yeah, I think it would be cool. What are your thoughts on him going to the Lakers? Because there were rumors around that too, but apparently the Lakers aren't willing to trade Austin Reeves for him. Do you think that was the right move?
I'm kind of torn, not gonna lie, because like I think that getting the Aaron would be like really cool, especially like LeBron. We don't know how many years he has left. If we get De'Aaron, then we got De'Aaron and AD set as the future long term star duo. But part of me also was like, I don't know if I want to give up on Austin because he's shown so much potential and he has clearly the third best player on the team behind LeBron and AD. By all means, like, is Austin Reeves a 100% untouchable player? That's one where you can debate on. Like, I'm gonna say this. If they were to give up Austin Reeves, I think that it has to be a damn good player. And De'Aaron Fox is a really good player. He's one of them where like I'm on the edge. Like, would I want to give up Austin for that particular player? Like, for example, if it's to trade for like a top five or like top 10 player in the league, I would say probably I would include Austin in the package because you're getting a top five, top 10 player in return. De'Aaron Fox is probably like a top 20 player. I mean, we did our top 25 player list in the past, which is still good, but he's one of them where like a little bit more on the edge. So at the end of the day, do I think they made the right decision to say we are out on trading for De'Aaron due to the desire to keep Austin? I guess time will tell. For now, I guess I am okay with it, even though I kind of wanted De'Aaron a little bit, but we'd probably be getting fleeced anyway. I mean, knowing the Kings hate the Lakers, not only would they want Austin, they would also want several draft picks and so forth. So honestly, I think I'm okay that the Lakers backed out. But what were your thoughts? Did you really want them to do it, or you're kind of happy they decided not to trade Austin, or also torn?
I'm like you. Like, although De'Aaron Fox would be an upgrade, Austin Reeves is a really good player that I don't think we should be giving up for De'Aaron Fox. Maybe if we're trading for Shea, then yeah, we'll throw Austin Reeves in there, Rui, several draft picks. I'm fine with that. But we're talking about De'Aaron Fox, who is an all-star caliber player, but um, still not like the best point guard in the league by any means. One of the best, but not the best. It, I think it'd be a good fit. Besides, next to LeBron and Anthony Davis. But yeah, I'd rather have Austin Reeves with that like amazing contract of his. He has such a great contract. We're getting a lot of value from him. Um, so yeah, at the moment, I do think we made the right move. But we'll see. I guess, as you said, time will tell. We'll see if we'll make it to San Antonio. Are the Kings not going to trade him? This trade season is going to be definitely interesting. Where, seeing if Fox is going to be traded, Jimmy Butler, is Bradley Beal going to allow the Suns to trade him to any places? Are the Warriors going to make a big move? It's going to be interesting for sure. We'll see if anything happens, but time will tell. Time will tell.
That
Next,
is true indeed. Yeah,
yeah,
time will tell. Um, but yeah, I think we can now move on to the next topic of NBA news. Um, I guess I can take the charge on this one because I kind of brought it to mind. And that was the fact that earlier this week in an interview, Adam Silver suggested the possibility of the NBA shortening games from 12-minute quarters to 10-minute quarters, which would in turn overall shorten the full game from 48 minutes to 40 minutes. And so that 10-minute quarters would be the same system used by FIBA and the WNBA. And so I guess that brings like a little bit of a debate where is this the right move? Now granted, 82 games in the season is a lot. So those few minutes that potentially are taken out of the game maybe could help players like body tolls and whatnot. Um, Obviously making the game a little bit shorter, um, potentially could make NBA lose a little bit of revenue. But then again, I don't know if it really would make them lose revenue because, like, if you think about it, there are people that maybe could be thinking these games are too long. Then you shorten it a little bit, and then they'll maybe think it's a little bit more reasonable. So if I were to give like a overall thought on this potential move, I would say I don't know like how whether I really like it or don't like it. But if they do make it happen, I would not particularly be that mad and I would understand because like players getting injured definitely if anything is the number one decoy to making the viewership going down. So I would say if it does happen, it would be understandable because 82 games is a lot. So we'll see whether this rule actually comes into fruition. But Memo, what are your thoughts on this rumored possibility?
at first I thought it was stupid, but I didn't think about what she just brought up about how maybe it'll help the players out with the playing less minutes throughout the season. 82 games is a lot for a season, so lowering the amount of minutes a little bit every game might be helpful for the players. Um, but with that said, I feel like it's been weird all these talks about how much you know fans or Adam Silver want to change the game, because there's Adam Silver is talking about lowering the amount of minutes to 40. I feel like that's a bit drastic, but I do see the argument. I feel like there's a lot of people that want to uh, make a 4 point line, or uh, there's also people I read this earlier today. I think Jamal Crawford was talking in the podcast saying that they should limit the amount of threes that players should be taking in the game, and I feel like this is just a lot of like hoopla. It's very drastic solutions for problems that aren't even like big problems. Like this game has been played in a similar fashion for years, and we're just gonna change everything because the Celtics make threes sometimes. I think that's insane. Like we're trying to change all these rules just to make a few angry fans happy. I think we just gotta wait it out, see what happens throughout the years. If we're seeing more and more players getting injured, more Joel Embiid cases, then maybe lowering the minutes would be a good idea. Um, and it might help the game a lot, make things a bit faster, which would be interesting to see. This is definitely not the worst idea I've seen so far. I'm kind of growing towards it, but yeah, I part of me feels like we should just relax a little bit because all these people are trying to change the NBA and try to change basketball, and although I'm not really you know one to be like, oh, I rather have it the go old ways. I'm not one of those people, but we gotta relax a little bit. Just because the Warriors and the Celtics and the Cavs like to shoot threes doesn't mean we have to like come up with all these like, oh, let's put a circle for this like 4 point line. Let's make half court shots worth 5 points. Like let's do all these drastic things. Like there's it's a bit much, and we gotta think about how like this affects like other things like gyms. Like, are we gonna now have to like add a 4 point line to every gym now or something like that? I know I'm kind of like spiraling at the moment talking about random stuff, but I think it's just weird how we're trying desperately to change everything when we just gotta relax a bit and see where things go, because there's gonna be new players coming in. There's gonna be new things happening, and we should have the players change the game, not the NBA change the game.
Yeah, definitely agree there. I mean, like, don't now some of those concepts they come up with could be interesting, but I feel like the game would like change way too drastically that it would honestly be chaotic and in a way maybe even hard to keep up, especially for like the newer fans that are trying to like learn the sport. You throw another curveball at them and they're like, what the hell actually is going on? Like for example, if they were to add like a 4 point shot or other stuff, um I think that certain players are for it because they're really good at shooting. But then you're gonna have like a bunch of non-shooters that are probably gonna attempt those, and then they're probably gonna miss like very miserably. And then coaches are gonna go crazy, fans are gonna go crazy, and like it's just gonna be a mess. We already know how like fans could be on social media, like Twitter, like death threats and all that dumb shit. Can you imagine how much even more of that would happen? Man, I wouldn't even want to go there. So yeah, I agree with you. Like, they definitely do need to like relax a little bit on all of those like change ideas. Some of them could be reasonable. A lot of them are just unrealistic. But yeah, as far as going from 48 to 40 minutes, um, we'll see. If it does limit injuries, then maybe it could be a good move. But until we see it, one cannot really speak for certain. So we'll see what happens.
Okay. Let's move on to the next story. Hoops, would you like to cover that one?
Yeah, I'll cover the next one. I just saw a very quick tweet post, and it was regarding because like obviously last year they had the Steph versus Sabrina 3-point shootout special contest, if you want to call it, because it wasn't the formal 3-point contest, but it was like a extra twist to make things extra interesting. And that was a bang, honestly, like a really great concept by the league, and it turned out really good. So then, rumor has it that the NBA offered to invite Caitlin Clark to participate in the 3-point contest this year for the NBA All Star Weekend. But it is reported that Caitlin Clark has declined the invitation. So there's that. Now I think it's understandable that she declined it. I mean, maybe she just wants to have more rest before the WNBA season starts in like I think about 3 months or 3.5 months or so. And then maybe another thing is like she just doesn't want to steal the spotlight from the other players. And so all that is understandable. So I guess the question is, did the NBA participants potentially save themselves from the risk of a 3-point contest loss to a WNBA player? It's possible. Because obviously we all know like Caitlin Clark shoots the ball lights out. Granted, a lot of NBA players can shoot the ball lights out too. But yeah, I feel like if they could have done something similar again to like the Steph versus Sabrina, that would have probably been like the thing to do. Like part two of this what was successful. But overall I say it's understandable that she declined the invite.
I think what I've heard is that Caitlyn decided to decline because she's never done the 3-point contest for the WNBA, and she thought it would be silly to do something for the NBA before the WNBA. So she was thinking for the WNBA first, which I think is the right move. She really wants to help the WNBA grow, and for some reason she wasn't in it this during her rookie season, but she will definitely
Yeah,
make it. Hopefully, this upcoming All Star game for the WNBA. But yeah,
yeah,
I think that her declining was a good move for her in the WNBA. She's really thinking about her league, which is what she should be doing. But yeah, it would have been really exciting to see Caitlyn play in the 3-point contest. It hasn't been revealed yet who will be in it, but seeing her maybe go against like Trey Young or something like that. In the finals would be crazy. That'd be definitely the biggest highlight of All Star Weekend. Which last year Steph and Sabrina was the best moment from All Star
yeah,
Weekend for sure. So I would love to see more inclusion of the WNBA and NBA in All Star Weekend, finding ways to have both leagues come together and have contests that I feel like are like fair game. The like 3-point contest is definitely fair game. I could see Caitlyn winning the whole thing against like a Trey Young, a Cat, a LaMelo Ball, Steph Curry. Even though these guys are incredible 3-point shooters, I believe in Caitlyn. I think she can do it. Sabrina is obviously a great shooter as well. She did great last year, even though she lost. She did great. And shout out to her and her shoes. I really like her shoes. She has some of the best basketball shoes in the game, honestly. So shout out to them. But yeah, it would have been very interesting to see, but it's not gonna happen. So we just gotta wait a year. We just gotta wait for the WNBA to put Caitlyn onto their 3-point contest, and then I'm sure Caitlyn will join the NBA as well.
yeah, for sure. If I'm not mistaken, I believe she was invited to WNBA 3-point contest last year, but I think she chose to decline it. I'm not sure why, but I guess there were maybe she just wanted a break, honestly, from all the
That's
games, which is
interesting.
understandable.
Well, she played in
Yeah,
the
I
All Star
believe that.
game, so she was gonna be there no matter what.
Yeah, I think maybe she just didn't want to do both. I don't know. I think that's what it was. Not 100%, but I think that's what it was. But yeah, maybe hopefully she participates this year in WNBA three-point contest, and then maybe next year she'll be willing to try the NBA one. And
Interesting.
then yeah, I do think that NBA and WNBA doing more collabs would be a good thing because obviously WNBA, I think within the last year, obviously the viewership has gone up very much, a lot better, and for many good reasons. I mean, obviously, Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, you name it. But to even further boost it, what more than the NBA finding ways to help out would be a good idea.
Yeah, maybe have
So I
some of the WNBA players be in the what is it called? The skills challenge. I think that'd be a good
that
one.
would be I think that would be a good one, honestly, because like skills challenge is like much more fair game in my opinion. I mean, like people always complain about like the WNBA players missing layups and shots and whatnot, but like they have the handles. They could clearly do like the skills challenge. And then I think like selecting the top shooters like Caitlyn and Sabrina, like maybe like a two versus two special edition or even like another one versus one, like the Steph and Sabrina one, would also be cool. So, yeah, I'm sure they'll come up with something up their sleeve soon, but it just looks like it unfortunately will not be this year. And so that means maybe another flop, All Star Weekend flop, but we'll see. Hopefully, it'll be better this year.
We'll see. But yeah, I guess that's it for Caitlin Clark talk. We could cover the last few bit of news, which is very unfortunate news. Um, Both Jalen Johnson and DeJounte Murray are going to be out for the rest of the season. Jalen Johnson is going to need a season ending shoulder injury, so that's why he's out. And just today, as of recording, DeJounte Murray torn his Achilles in a no contact injury. I saw the video. It was crazy how it all happened. He like was going for a rebound and somehow hurt himself and was on the floor for a bit. Was like hopping to the bench and stuff. Very unfortunate for these two. Jalen Johnson was having a great season. You know, had like an all star push at a point. And now the Hawks are gonna suck a lot more without him. And Dejounte Murray has had a very, I'll say up and down season, but it's mostly because the Pelicans have had such a weird season that there's no consistency over there. Um, and he was injured earlier this year, came back, and now he's back to being injured and will miss the rest of the season. So, yeah, this is very unfortunate news. So, hopefully they both recover very soon.
Definitely agreed on that. Hope they both recover very soon. Jalen Johnson was having a very great season for the Hawks. One of the bright spots for a pretty mid team. And unfortunately, DeJounte, who missed the parts of the season earlier to begin, came back. Now he got injured again and is out for the season. And so, yeah, unfortunately, a Hawk and a former Hawk end up having season ending injuries. And definitely wish both of them a speedy recovery. And hopefully, next season, they are both coming back strong.
Yeah, but I guess that is it. We yapped a lot. We had a lot to cover, but we did it. We made it, and you know the episode's not too long, so
Yeah.
that's a win. That's a win.
Yeah, I think that we were able to cover a good amount of ground in this episode in a relatively reasonable amount of time. So that was a job well done on our part, and it was a fun discussion, of course. I mean, always fun doing these episodes, but I feel like this one was particularly fun with the twist. Like, obviously, our reactions to the reserves, adding a mini game, and then so adding in other tic tacs in the episode. I say it was pretty cool. Um, Yeah, I just want to say, per usual, thank you guys for the constant support to our channel. We greatly appreciate it. We would not be where we are today without you guys' support. If you guys like our content, make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share, follow us on all platforms, Spotify, um, and Spotify, TikTok, view our both YouTube videos and YouTube shorts, you name it. And stay tuned. We got some more bangers coming up. We're gonna integrate special like mini games and like activity concepts, I guess if you want to call it, where we can think of it. So you guys do not want to miss it. Look forward to what's to come and stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned. We've got a lot of good content here on YouTube, on the audio platform, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Make sure you subscribe, follow, leave a 5-star rating and review. Check out our socials. I'll be making that uh, little draft mini game we did earlier this week into a TikTok and not earlier this week, earlier this episode into a TikTok and short for this week. So that'll be very exciting. Look out for that. Check out everything we've got going on. And yeah, we'll see you next week. Goodbye.